So, good afternoon, all. Welcome back for the second half of the first day. I'm José Lino, Chair from buildingSMART Portugal, and it is a pleasure to be your moderator for this session now. The session is about why IFC. So, why is a strong word, is a strong theme. Let's try to have answers for what you are seeking here. Well, for the engineers in the room that noticed that the lettering and the openBIM was a little bit mess, I officially may announce that we fixed openBIM. So now it's done, okay? And on another note, it's a pleasure to be here. I congratulate Sergio and buildingSMART for all the efforts to having us here. Portugal and Spain have been, long time ago, a chapter together, an Iberian chapter. And now we are separate chapters, but with a strong connection. And it's a pleasure to be here and to be part of this Iberian family, if I may say. Thank you, Sergio. Okay, and going directly to our session. So, why IFC? A growing number of IFC mandates are being published and, in some cases, written into law. Many governments, public bodies, and clients are seeing IFC as a way to improve productivity in both vertical and horizontal projects. It is also being seen as a positive approach, helping to meet local, national, and international sustainability goals. Key advocates see this as an opportunity to improve collaboration using the IFC mandate to help build clarity and alignment of all stakeholders. In this session, you will hear from experts from around the world who have contributed to ensuring IFC is mandated either at a national or organizational level. Understand why IFC is the common opportunity for the growing set of mandates providing a positive impact of the industry. And to start, we will have, and I call to the stage, Yoshinobu Adachi, fellow from buildingSMART International, is from buildingSMART Japan, that will present the title of his presentation is Towards IFC Mandate, openBIM Initiatives in Japan. He will have also in video Mr. Kenji Fujiwara, that is the Director for Digital Transformation and Building Councillor's Office for Building Regulations Housing Bureau, and also Yugo Masuya, it's the Minister Secretariat Engineering Affairs Division, Innovation Group, a Senior Deputy Director. Yoshi, the stage is yours.
Thank you for your introductions. In my presentations, the two video presentations is included from Ministry of Land Infrastructure and Transport and Tourism. So I'm talking about the story of why IFC from the viewpoint of the governmental agencies and also buildingSMART Japan chapter. So before watching the video message from MLIT, I'd like to touch on the overview of national BIM program in Japan a little bit. So MLIT stands for Ministry of Land Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism of Japan, started national program titled Digital Transformation in Architecture and Urban Development last year in 2023. This architectural and urban DX has three key elements. Of course, building information model, the 3D city model, and the real estate identifier. This digital asset will activate city planning, disaster prevention, green and carbon neutrality, and also mobility and drone services. To realize these goals, BIM is becoming a very important key element in the program. So this is showing the initial BIM data workflow. We focus on still plan, design, construction. This is also an important part. But when to reach out for architectural and urban DX, there's a need to expand BIM data lifecycle to the new cycle in the right-hand side to maintain the long-term data accessibility. It would be a couple of decades or even centuries. Open and stable data standard must be the foundation. So I believe that the openBIM is absolutely fitting on that position. So in particular, when we look at smart city level service applications, IoT and BIM linkage is becoming very important key element. So buildingSMART has already achieved to publish infrastructure and the building data model as IFC 4.3. At this moment, new buildingSMART standards such as OpenCD API and the web ontology standards are expanding its roles to not only BIM software, but also IoT, robot, and artificial intelligence area. So with that background, I'd like to introduce MLIT's video presentation here. Two key officers of MLIT, Mr. Masuya and Mr. Fujiwara, will present the IFC mandate overviews from civil engineering, infrastructure, and the building domains, respectively. So please play on the video number 1, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Masuya, and I'm in charge of Infrastructure BIM at the Minister's Secretariat Technical Research Division of the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism. Nice to meet you. From the fiscal year 2023, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism has adopted Infrastructure BIM as a principle, and it is now standard practice to deliver IFC models for civil engineering projects commissioned by the government. Until now, we've been delivering outputs in 2 dimensions, but by transitioning to 3-dimensional delivery, we anticipate resolving various challenges such as clash detection for reinforcement bars and providing clearer explanations to local community. We believe this shift will allow for more efficient and understandable work processes. Additionally, the use of IFC models plays a crucial role, and we've heard that it will expand to cover the civil engineering field with IFC 4 and 3 in the future. We hope for improved usability and anticipate that it will change the way we work. Especially, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism has primarily utilized 2-dimensional data for design. Transitioning to 3 dimensions implies a fundamental change in our approach to work. Rather than deciding on representative elements in 2 dimensions and extending them, we will now consider things in 3 dimensions, focusing on the actual structures to be built, enabling us to approach the work from the beginning. We anticipate significant changes in execution as a result, leading to a substantial change in our work method. While utilizing IFC at the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport, and Tourism, we aim to shift towards a primarily 3-dimensional design approach starting from the next fiscal year. Moreover, in terms of our work, we spend a significant amount of time on design estimation and design changes. Particularly concerning financial aspects, we've been using software to copy and paste quantities obtained after creating things and tallying them up. We are considering a challenge to directly tally using data from IFC. This would eliminate the need for individual checks, as the data would be linked directly, leading to efficiency gains in time and significantly reducing the potential for errors. We have high expectations that utilizing the IFC will greatly ease estimation, which has been a time-consuming process among clients and adjusting finances due to design changes. We plan to implement this from the next fiscal year and are actively working towards it. We have high hopes for further advancements in IFC, expecting improved usability, and are committed to using it proactively. As the population declines due to aging, we will continue to strive for the appropriate development and management of infrastructure, utilizing IFC more efficiently to fulfill this mission. We look forward to further developments in IFC and are committed to embracing them actively. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, this was kind of the civil engineering and infrastructure department, the IFC mandate stories. So second video presentation is about architectural sectors. So let's see.
Hello everyone. My name is Fujiwara, and I serve as the Chief Digital Promotion Officer for Architecture at the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism. I want to express my sincere gratitude for allowing me to participate in the buildingSMART International Summit through this keynote speech format, even though I couldn't be there in person due to scheduling conflicts. I'd like to talk about our efforts in promoting BIM as part of Japan's architectural and urban digital transformation policy. In Japan, we face various societal challenges such as labor shortages due to population decline and aging, declining vitality in regional cities, and exacerbation of natural disasters due to global warming. To address these challenges, we're implementing various policies by promoting DX in architecture, urban development, and real estate. We believe we can enhance productivity in architectural production and urban development, leading to improved quality in both buildings and cities. Moreover, DX in these fields can transform traditionally paper-based information into organized data, facilitating not only information utilization within these sectors, but also creating new value when integrated with information from other sectors like transportation, logistics, and tourism. The promotion of DX in architecture, urban development, and real estate sectors is integral to Japan's economic and fiscal management and growth strategies, with related agencies collaborating on its implementation. Within the architectural DX realm, we're devoting significant resources to promoting BIM. I'd like to introduce our initiatives in BIM promotion. In Japan, when planning to construct a building, we have a system called building confirmation, where municipal building officials or designated private inspection agencies confirm whether the building plans comply with construction standards. While BIM is already widely used in architectural design and construction, unfortunately, the environment for conducting building confirmation using BIM is not yet fully established. Currently, despite designing with BIM, submissions for building confirmation still rely on 2D drawing. To address this, in March 2023, we announced a policy to establish an environment for conducting building confirmation using BIM. Our goal is to start conducting building confirmation through BIM drawing review by March 2026. This will involve submitting both traditional confirmation application documents and IFC models during the building confirmation process. Streamlining tasks such as alignment checks between drawings and quantity surveys. We believe that by streamlining the alignment confirmation, which currently takes up 20-30% of the building confirmation process, confirmation can be issued more quickly, benefiting both designers and reviewers at the BIM drawing review stage. Compliance with laws and regulations will still be verified using traditional application documents, while the key to streamlining alignment checks will be the IFC model. Even that different BIM software is used by design by architects, expecting inspection agencies to have every BIM software available is not feasible. Therefore, we decided to require the submission of IFC models for building confirmation in Japan. Additionally, considering future readability and anti-tagging need, we believe it's natural to request IFC models for confirmation submissions. To start BIM drawing reviews by March 2026, efforts are underway, including constructing common data environments for confirmation applications, creating standard templates compatible with various BIM software used for confirmation, and standardizing data to promote cross-sectoral utilization of BIM data. Both the public and private sectors are collaborating extensively on these initiatives with significant support from buildingSMART Japan. Once BIM drawing review becomes established, we aim to transition to BIM data review, where IFC models themselves are the subject of review. This shift is expected to further enhance efficiency in reviews by explicitly indicating fire compartments, slope restrictions, and other details within the IFC model. In my opinion, the true essence of DX lies in transforming traditional information into usable data through DX efforts, creating new value through that data. While architects and builders may not resist using native BIM models, it might pose a high hurdle for building managers and operators. From the perspective of data utilization and distribution, we believe using IFC is inevitable. Today I focus mainly on BIM, but we're also collaborating with projects like Plateau, a nationwide 3D city model development and open data project to advance DX in architecture, urban development, and real estate. Looking ahead, we're considering mechanisms where BIM models submitted for building confirmation can automatically integrate with 3D city models. We also aim to build a society where dynamic data, such as inspection data for buildings and sensing data like pedestrian flow, can be combined with 3D city models for comprehensive utilization. DX is full of boundless possibilities. We will continue to promote DX in the architectural field and strive for initiatives that contribute to and benefit society, including all of you. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you for your attention, the MLIT video messages. In the last half of my presentation, I'd like to summarize the openBIM initiatives in Japan from the viewpoint of buildingSMART Japan, or I mean international as well. So as MLIT stated, in 2025 fiscal year, IFC submission will start in the building permission process in Japan. The first step is a kind of a soft landing stages. So submitted 3D drawing, it's a PDF, is mainly focused on checking process. However, to the second stages, afterwards, submitted IFC data will be also utilized for automated building code check process. To realize smarter openBIM-based building permission process, we believe that the buildingSMART standards such as BCF, OpenCD API, IDS, and BSDD will play a very important role. So this is the quick introductions that Mr. Fujiwara mentioned about the 3D city model named Plateau. So this is the MLIT's initiatives for expanding open data for everybody. And it's mainly, it's very low level of detail, 1 and 2. Such city GML data is published by government. But if you have your own buildings, you want to indoor spatial information for your purpose. So that's why BIM is becoming very important component for 3D city model scene. So in Project Plateau, buildingSMART Japan has been working on BIM guidelines development for IFC to city GML conversion specification. buildingSMART Japan defined IDM and MVD for Plateau purpose. The MVD is based on existing coordination view, but we are now thinking the coming IFC 4.3, we need to revise existing Plato's MVD by its IDS and the BSDD involvement. So these are published Plato's BIM guideline, including IDM and MVD things. This kind of documentations could be interpreted to the digital format as BSDD database and IDS format in the future. To realize such IFC mandate goals, buildingSMART international standard will important keystone through openBIM workflow. In this morning, we talked about the openBIM workflow is becoming very important outcomes from buildingSMART International. So this openBIM workflow includes the information requirement and the model creations, validations, and collaboration. For example, in openBIM-based building permission process, the organizational information requirement is indispensable. The BSDD and IDS enable to shape such information requirement with structured digital format. And the communication between project members and the government agency will be activated by BCF and the OpenCDE API connection. So I'd like to conclude my presentation here. Last year, as Clive mentioned, buildingSMART International defined strategic projects to realize a better openBIM ecosystem. This includes the IFC validation services, global software certification, BSDD, and IFC extensions, and openBIM education and enlightenments. So buildingSMART Japan chapter recognizes that this is a very critical step towards achieving IFC mandate goals in Japan. So that Japan chapter has already initiated the conversations with buildingSMART International to contribute to strategic project delivery. So now everyone, let's work together for openBIM workflow in your domain and in your chapter. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yoshinobu. It is thrilling to see the commitment of the government of Japan in this, in IFC, but not only IFC, the whole ecosystem that you explained, yep, even with open data and addressing the challenges that you mentioned. Yep. Okay. Yep. Thank you so much. And the time is running, so I will ask people that have questions to Yoshinobu. Please reach him during the breaks, during the networking. Please do it. Please, another applause to Yoshinobu, and thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
And now I call to the stage Mr. Neil Peterson, please. Neil Peterson is the president of ODA, Open Design Alliance, a technology consortium that develops interoperability solutions for the CAD and BIM industries. And Neil will present us with a presentation entitled IFC Demand Within the BIM Application Market. Thank you so much, BIM.
Thank you. We are not involved in the mandate process directly at ODA, but we are in a position where we work with most of the vendors in the CAD and BIM industry. And so we get to see the effects of the IFC mandates and the open BIM mandates as they trickle down through the industry. And so that's my subject today, IFC demand within the BIM application market. And I think as an organization, we're in a unique perspective to see some of these points and to share them with all of you. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about our organization. We are a toolkit provider, and so our organization sits right at the level above open standards, the IFC, BCF at the bottom, and we provide components for working with these standards. Our customers are application developers, and so, for example, in Clive's presentation this morning, he talked about IDS, IFC, BCF, and OpenCDE. we provide components to implement support for all of those standards. And any company that wants to get a leg up and quickly integrate support for those standards into their applications, they can work with us and get a ready-made set of components for those technologies. So our customers include nearly all of the CAD and BIM industry. You see a lot of familiar names here from this conference. And in addition, we have 1,200 customers, members worldwide, and it goes far beyond the CAD and BIM industries. We also work with companies like Microsoft, Tencent, Bosch, manufacturing, drug companies. It's a very broad and diverse group of member companies that support our organization. Our customers take our technologies, they build them into their end user applications, and then release those on to the end user community, which includes government, facilities management, AEC, a huge range of professionals and interested parties that work with openBIM and CAD data. And so you can see the reach of our organization is quite large. And I would guess that everybody in this room has used software that contains ODA technology. Probably aren't aware of it, but you've used software that contains our technology embedded. IFC and these other standards are open. And so the question arises, why work with a toolkit provider? It's an open standard. You can just implement support for these standards yourself. And so the reason, there's a good answer to that. The reason is that even though these standards are open, they're not trivial. They're complex standards, and there's actually a huge investment required to implement good support for these open standards. So I'll talk just about our IFC toolkit. We have 50 person years of development invested into this product, 3 million lines of code. We've fixed 350 user bugs at this point and counting. Sure, there'll be more on the way. And we have a set of 1,000 test files that we use to guarantee the quality of our product from release to release. And so if you're looking to implement support for IFC yourself as an open standard, you're going to have to invest a similar effort to what we've done here. And it's a really expensive wheel to be reinventing when you can instead work with a toolkit provider that's already put this effort into the technology. And I'll also mention that this only covers the core IFC technology. If you want to do visualization of IFC, then you're looking at having your own geometry kernel and a technology stack to support that, things like PDF publishing. So if you include the other technologies that we include in our technology stack, if you try to scope out that, then instead of 50 man years, you're looking at hundreds of person years of development, tens of millions of lines of code. It really is a complex piece of work to fully support all of these open standards. Now, we're not the only toolkit provider in the market, but I think our organization has some unique advantages over other companies that provide similar technologies. So our goal as an organization is long-term sustainable software development. And so there's 4 principles that we follow. And the first of these is that we treat our employees like family. So we've got a good group of people that we try and have good retention. And we look at our employees, the most valuable resource, and we do everything we can to retain them. We have a long-term focus, and I think that's important. You know, you hear about the lifespan of buildings and other infrastructure projects. Well, we have a 100-year time frame that we're looking at as an organization. We expect our software to be in use 100 years from now. And so when we're making decisions about our development, we're always focused on optimizing our code base and being able to maintain our projects for the long term. We don't do short-term thinking at ODA. Third point is that we are a nonprofit alliance. So we don't have any owners, we don't have any shareholders. And that means all of the money that we collect goes back into the organization every year. So the members also control the strategic direction of our organization by sitting on our board of directors. And so we operate like a regular software company. We charge money each year to use our software to be a member, but that money stays within the organization. There's no group that's pulling money out in the form of shareholders. And the fourth point is that we give the utmost care and attention to our customers, to our members. Software vendors that are using our products, they are the reason that we exist. And so we take our commitment to these people very seriously. The fact that we don't have owners and investors, I think, is the key point here. And it's interesting when we try to explain our organization to a lot of people, they don't understand this concept of a company, but it actually simplifies a lot of things when you don't have a group of investors that are trying to make money off of the company. Because when you state that the goal of the company is to maximize shareholder value, it starts putting pressure on some of these other points. It puts pressure on the employees, puts pressure on the services that get offered to customers. And by not having that investor shareholder class, we have a much simpler business model. It's a great company to work for, and we provide great service for our members, for our customers. Our team, in every other respect, even though we're a nonprofit, we are a modern software company. Agile development, advanced quality control. We have a full-time professional staff of 120 people. And this year, we're working to integrate AI into our processes across the board, code development, marketing. It's proving to be a challenge, but we see huge potential for enabling our organization with the use of AI. So the main focus of what I want to talk about today, as I mentioned at the beginning, since we work with most of the industry, we're in a good position to see what kind of demand, what kind of real demand is there for IFC technology among companies that are actually building out applications for the BIM industry. And so within our organization, we've got 50% of our members, of our customers, that are asking for IFC. And that's one of the reasons that we actually implemented. You're talking about 600 companies potentially there. If you look at on the technology side, the number of downloads of our IFC SDK. So we first released the SDK in 2020. And you can see 600 downloads the first year, went to 3,600 the next year. And 2022, nearly 16,000. And last year, almost 19,000 downloads of our toolkits. So the rate of increase of downloads each year for our IFC technology is increasing by a really nice number. Very pleased to see that. IFC-related discussion topics within our organization. So we have free technical support. As I said, we're focused on our members. If you have questions about using our technology, you have feature requests, those come into our support system and become discussion threads. So we have 300 such threads for IFC-related topics in recent years. Things like visualization, using model hierarchy, converting Revit, using our Revit technology, converting Revit to IFC, validation, all kinds of issues. And actually, the number of support requests in 2023 was equal to the total number in the previous 3 years combined. So the trend is definitely going up in terms of discussion traffic within our organization around openBIM topics. Another metric that we can measure is demand for our OpenIFC viewer. So as a service to the industry, we provide a free professional-grade IFC viewer. And you can see that it was first released in April of 2021, fewer than 2,000 downloads a month. But January of this year, we were over 5,000 downloads for the viewer. It's available on Mac and Windows. Really happy to see the interest in our viewer. And we get a lot of feedback and a lot of requests. And feel free to contact us, even if you're not a member. We're happy to hear feedback, and we're also happy to get suggestions for improving the technology. So on a more technical level, we get requests for feature improvements in our IFC toolkit. So it's a way to measure what types of things are people trying to do with IFC technology, what types of features do they want us to add to enable functionality for them in their applications. And so I'll just mention a few of the recent additions that we've made. Support for two new schemas, IFC 4x3 ADD2 schema and the IFC 4x4 schema. And just as an aside, one of the services that we offer, any new schema that's published by BSI, even just an experimental schema, we do immediately offer support. So if you're looking to experiment, IFC 4x4 is a good example right now. It's not a standard yet. It's still under development with the tunnel specification, but we already support it. We provide tools if you want to work with that schema. We've made SDAI improvements, SDAI query, UTF-8 support. We have a nice set of tools for doing simple editing of IFC data within our viewer. So some people want to be able to interactively click on an object in an IFC model and delete it, maybe move it around. They want to be able to do some simple editing without having to go in and actually edit a text file. So we've been doing some interesting experiments with our viewer, and we actually, I'll talk about this a little bit more tomorrow in one of the sessions later in the afternoon, but we've got a hybrid viewer where you can look at IFC data overlaid with point cloud data and get some interesting effects and do some editing within that type of context. So we've had some requests and some demand in that area. We've added some support for IFC map conversion, for visualization, IFC layer assignment support. Kobe was a request, so we added Kobe support, BCF3, and fuzz testing. Angel mentioned all of the bad IFC files. I can certainly concur with him that there's a lot of bad data out there. Fuzz testing was requested. Fuzz testing is where you take a set of files and you just start messing them up. You start adding junk to them, and then you try to make sure that your software can read them without crashing. So we're improving the robustness of our technology with fuzz testing. In our OpenIFC viewer, the types of requests we're getting, a lot of requests coming in. There's a lot of people using the viewer and wanting to see improvements. And so I've got the summary here, but then I've got slides for most of these, so I'll go through these quickly. Layer Manager plugin. So now you can bring up a screen that for an IFC model that'll show you all the layers. You can turn layers off and on. So if you want to display just the electrical system or walls or roofs or some part of the model, you can do that. You can set properties for individual layers. So it's a nice feature added to the viewer. The Kobe plugin, so we added Kobe support. Now you can access that support and work with it in our viewer. Instance viewer plugin, so it's validation for a particular instance and its attributes. So another nice feature, more complex feature. SDAI query selections, you can do an SDAI query from within the viewer. And animation plugin was a request. This one is kind of cool. Pick an alignment in the model, and then you can set some properties. And our visualization engine supports animation. It'll do essentially a fly through on the model along the alignment. So it's useful if you want to create. Use the viewer or use our visualization technology to create some interactive demos. You can do that. BCF 2.3 Manager palette is available. If you're working with BCF files, we support the full workflow for BCF. And finally, we've got redlining support in the viewer, so you can mark up a model, put some notes and markups. And so we added a couple of new markup types, component stamp and coordinate stamp markups. So a couple of interesting and useful tools if you're trying to do markup for IFC models. So, in summary, where are we trending? From what we see, The demand at the application developer level, demand for IFC is increasing quickly. In the past year, we've seen a huge increase, both in usage of our toolkits, usage of our free viewer. Requests are increasing. We're getting some interesting requests. And for us, it's been, I don't know, I guess you would say a relief. So we implemented support for IFC 4 years ago at the request of our members. And we don't charge any extra money for it. We added IFC to our core platform. So our customers essentially got IFC technology for free. And we weren't sure at the time how many people would actually pick it up and use it. We've had cases in the past where we implement something that people say that they want and then nobody uses it. And then, we just made a really expensive mistake. But with IFC, the level of usage that we've seen has really been incredible. And we're pleased to add this technology, and it's strengthening our organization, and we see the trend continuing on upwards. So it's really been a nice validation for us to see the level of interest and the level of usage of technology within our sector of the industry. And just to finish up, I wanted to mention one more thing that Angel mentioned about the problem with bad IFC files. As sort of a complement to the buildingSMART validation program, we also support validation in our free viewer. So if you want to be able to do offline validation, or some instances, it's nicer to be able to just run it on your desktop. We've got a really nice validation engine built into the free viewer, and you can just use it whenever you want. The problem with bad files, it's a real problem. When we first released our version of the IFC toolkit 4 years ago, we got a huge number of complaints because we couldn't read invalid files. We only allowed valid files to be loaded, and the feedback we got was like, hey, your stuff doesn't work. We got all these files and you won't load them. And they were all bad, but nobody cares. All of these files are loaded by everybody else's application. So there really is a problem with a lot of bad data out there, and we would like to contribute to fixing that problem. We can contribute in 2 ways as an organization. One is our validation engine, and 2 is if you use our toolkit, you won't get the bad files in the first place. We won't write them out. So we've got a couple of contributions to trying to solve what I think is a very serious problem in the industry right now. So thank you for your attention. Happy to be here. And if you want to talk anytime later in this week, grab me. I'd be happy to talk. Thank you.
And thank you to keep it on time. And thank you so much for your job helping us to have IFC, the practical approach to IFC, not only for all the users like openIFC Viewer, but also this layer that the vendors need to provide. Thank you so much. And as we said before, please reach Neil for any other question. Thank you so much, Neil.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now the third presentation comes from Singapore. The title will be Strengthening Coordination and Collaboration with IFC. And I greet Vanessa Tang, the Director of Digital Services Agency, ACE-PLP, and Samuel Teo, that is the Deputy Director at the Land Transport Authority of Singapore, who oversees infrastructure digitalization and transformation of the sector. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. Hi, so I'm Vanessa from ACE-PLP. We provide some information modeling and management services and also support our users to build competency within their organizations. And
hi, I'm Samuel. Good to see you all this afternoon. Yep.
Yeah, and together we're from buildingSMART Singapore. And so our presentation today, is split into 2 parts. I'm going to be sharing with you what the IFC mandate is about in Singapore and how it's being executed. And Samuel here is going to talk about why it is important from the public sector perspective. All right, so here we go. First, let me take you through a history lesson of Singapore's digital journey. You've heard from Angel this morning from Autodesk about their involvement in CONNET in CoreNet back in 2001. So we've come a long way. In the 90s, we've been doing a lot of paper-based submissions with CoreNet. This moved on to paperless submissions. In 2010, we actually started the voluntary BIM submissions. And in 2015, this became mandatory. And now we're entering a new phase, I would say, a revolution in the way that information models are going to be submitted and reviewed. And this is the CoreNet X project, which I'm going to share a little bit more about today. So, maybe let me talk a little bit about CoreNet and, what it did. So what it did, CoreNet, was that it allowed separate submissions to various government agencies for regulatory approval based on the progress of the project. So that's great. You can submit it electronically, but the approach has some drawbacks because the plans can be submitted at different stages, and the agencies are reviewing it at different times and providing feedback separately. So this requires industry practitioners to address multiple sets of comments and ensure that their changes in the designs do not affect previous approvals. And, as you know, when you change one thing in your project, like if you have to move the beam, then you have to move the M&E services, and then suddenly you have to change the fire escape route as well, right? So it's because it's all interconnected. There was a need to then transform the regulatory landscape and the built environment practices by implementing CoreNet X. And this is a new submission platform that requires our industry to collaborate and coordinate our designs upfront in the process, in the openBIM format, before it goes to the regulatory agencies. And CoreNet X leverages on the digital technologies to enable pre-submission checks and allows our government agencies to collectively together review the submission and then issue a coordinated response to the project team. So why is CoreNet X necessary? First, different professionals within our industry are preparing the plans separately and independently from each other. And then they are submitted separately to different agencies at different milestones. We've got 7 different agencies with different regulatory mandates. And when you are addressing one comment from one agency, it will likely may lead you to a resubmission or an amendment to something that you have already submitted. And the approved plans will conflict. There is no single integrated view of the approved plan. And it will contain conflicts that needs to be resolved during the construction phase, resulting in abortive works. So what's happening with CoreNet X? That means that, with the implementation, we are looking at a complete redesign of the regulatory process because it streamlines over 20 approval touch points into 3 submission gateways. Ratnakar earlier this morning spoke about the technology enablers for CoreNet X. So that's one part, of the puzzle that we are able to implement new technology to automate processes and make things more efficient for everyone. I think what's really interesting about CoreNet X is that we've even changed the regulatory approval process for building works. So, and this was passed through, Parliament. It was a bill passed in Parliament stating that we are revising the way that regulatory approval process is being done. Right, that was back in July 2023 when the change was made in our Parliament. And with that, there is also the change management and the capability building. So on the buildingSMART Singapore side, we are also supporting the competency building of the people within our organization, within Singapore. But of course, that's a separate conversation. And today we are focused on the IFC mandate, what is being done, and how it's being executed. And what's the role of IFC in all of this, and why is it such a central factor to the implementation of CoreNet X? Right, IFC is the base for a common representation. And with IFC, we are storing the information in a consistent data structure so that the models can also be used for future analysis and further development of use cases and applications. And with that, right, with collecting all this information, the coordinated information using CoreNet X, it would also allow our industry to then run more automated processes using things like automated model checking to validate the submissions and allow reviews across various government agencies on this collaboration platform. So maybe let me explain a little bit about, the difference between IFC4 and IFC-SG. So the submission format to CONNECT-X is a file called IFC-SG, and IFC-SG is sort of like this localized data model that is developed based on the IFC4 standard to address local regulatory needs. So it basically, follows the IFC4 standard with some additional parameters to include localized information of interest. So for example, based on our code of practice, you need to provide barrier-free accessibility so that, our facilities are open to everyone to be used. And, we call that, you have to put in this property as, barrier-free accessibility, right? And another example, right? We've got a specific code about driveways. So we don't call that private roads or avenues or anything like that. We call that driveway, right? And that is based on the local Singaporean code of practice. And that is why we need an IFC-SG, basically a container to include parameters that are unique to the Singapore regulatory landscape. So the guiding principle of IFC-SG is that it uses everything that's already in the IFC schema without making modifications. And we are using the closest and most appropriate IFC representation to capture the information that is required. And there is a predefined list of object types and properties. And if they are insufficient, right, to capture the local regulatory information requirements, then we are using the user-defined features to incorporate localized information without changing the schema. And let me explain, give an example of how this works, how we are using the IFC object types to capture data. So using the wall object as an example, IFC already has a predefined list of wall types that you can already use, such as parapet, partitioning or standard. And there are many more other types of predefined IFC walls. And in this case, we can just make use of the predefined object type called parapet. That's very straightforward. So it's exported in the IFC model as a parapet. And if it's not available, so for example, in this case, I have here a retaining wall, right? That's something very specific to how we address this object in Singapore. And it's not within the IFC schema. So what we do then is to include that information under the user-defined object type in the IFC-SG format. All right, and now Samuel is going to talk about why IFC is important to Singapore.
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, so for those of you who do not know what the Land Transport Authority is about, we're actually the ADIF equivalent of Spanish authority in Singapore. But we are not just only the authority, we're also a regulator, as well as a developer, where we own the assets that we develop for road, rail, and commuter facilities, right? So some fun facts about Singapore. I'm not so sure how many of you really understand Singapore. Well, we are about 734 kilometers squared. It's 50 kilometer narrow and about 27 kilometer short. So we are a small dot in the global map. However, we are a country that aims big and have great visions and aspirations to do digitalization like what we are trying to do here at IFC. So LTA, by 2040, would deliver about 450 kilometers of railway lines. And earlier, Ranaka mentioned this morning, we're going to deliver about 58 kilometers of the Cross Island Line and 24 kilometers of the Jurong Regional Line. So with that in context, you will probably have a bit of a sense of why we need to do IFC in this journey, right? So as a start, in 2019, actually before 2017, when we were looking at the Singapore-KL high-speed rail project, we started on looking at IFC. And unfortunately, that project didn't take off between Singapore and Malaysia. When we went back to LTA, we decided to, we need to drive this in the infrastructure domain, which we see that it was rather trailing from the building sector, and infrastructure being horizontal infrastructure is a bit more complicated. So it took a bit of effort for us, and we set up in 2019 a transformation office to look at how this digital transformation will work for infrastructure development. And that knowledge that we also know that there's no one tool that rules them all, like Lord of the Rings. There's no one ring that rules them all, right? So we know that today different contractors need to be effective in what they do, so they use the appropriate software that best suits them and best communicate the design intent and the design process. So with that, we know that different contractors contractor A using product A, contractor B using product B, but they cannot communicate with each other. So this is further exacerbated with a division or a more complex value chain where everyone has its own software, and it relied heavily on native files as the source of truth. But that didn't appear to be effective for us. So when we set out in 2019, we understood about PS 1192. We also understood the which became the ISO 19650, and we saw that IFC is one of the key elements that will help us in this regards of having a common denominator where everyone will communicate on the same language. All right, and then with that, interestingly, what FK mentioned this morning, the value chain is pushing the client, but I think in Singapore it's more like we as the client are pushing the industry and bringing the industry along. That's pretty much the scene in Singapore, and we took a strategic view and trust on IFC that it can only get better. Because back then in 2019, it was like 2x3 was the core format that we have in Singapore, and we will actually depend on. We know that they trail what is required in infrastructure, which is where we ourselves built our data sets to try to be kept abreast with what's needed for our own projects. And true enough, there's 4.3 that came up, a saving grace for us, and followed by 4.4 and 4.5 and so on that's going to come. So we needed to embark on a journey with information management language that we know is transparent to us as the client or as the asset owner. Okay, we do not see that having native file as the wrong way to go. So in 2019, when we will introduce our procurement documents for the Jurong regional line and the Cross Island line, we stipulated that the core language that our contractors will communicate with each other will be based on IFC. All right, and then native file will be the key supporting documentation that will provide us for us to check our models if we need to go interrogate the model a bit deeper. So we also need an ecosystem that is sustainable and at an enterprise level, as what Ranaka said. So when in 2019, we went ahead to call a tender with a vision that we need to proceed and bring through our models through whole construction, get all the information in, and then ensure that there's longevity in what we do and has good information integrity for us to bring this into the O&M stage. As you know, infrastructure assets are there to last for decades or even to centuries. So we needed this to have continuity. And I think nothing is as assured as what we felt back then that IFC would offer us that roadmap and offer us that clarity of how we will see it come to materialize for our generations to come. So I cannot be working on strategy that's just myopic, that's only in my backyard. So if I'm no longer an organization, no one else can continue. So we felt that IFC was the best way to move it forward and ensure that we can bring our assets into operation and so on. So back in 2019, when we first had the tender procurement, we were the first agency who actually requested for IFC as the key source of the information requirement. And that anyway set path to how we run things in Singapore, right? Although we started the journey late, but I think the last 5 years, we've really caught up quite a fair bit. So what we mentioned earlier about CDE, for LTA, what we did was we didn't just wanted a CDE. You heard about the complications and all the stakeholders and value chains that we bring along with us to ensure information is well connected and well communicated across all the projects. We created a product or a platform called Insight, which stands for Integrated System for Information and Graphical Techno Environment. So we wanted a platform that reaps the full potential of BIM, from design to construction and eventually O&M. So with that in mind, we brought all our contractors, which ranges from architects or consultants to begin with, all to the civil and then the services and system contractors for real, right? And we bring them all to a system that is owned by LTA. So we are one of the earlier adopters who are regulatory or a government body that created a common data environment or platform for the value chain to communicate or to submit at no charge to the value chain, all right? Because we see that as asset owner, it's in our business to know what we build is something that we are able to keep sight of, all right? So we have, before that, sorry. So before that, this is hosted on the government commercial cloud, which is called GCC, where Singapore, we take a huge priority on ensuring cybersecurity, and with a lot of those cyber crimes and whatnot, we ensure that we have it hosted in a reliable environment where we keep our data safe. And you can see this is confidential design data. It's where we bring in the design, the pipeline projects. For future projects, we do the advanced engineering design before we gazette out the project, and that will feed into Insight. So Insight will also extend the information that we can bring it to the cave, computer-aided virtual environment, along with mobile devices like your AR goggles, iPad, iPhones, and on both iOS and Android software. So that gives us not just a very short-term benefit, but we see it long-term, where we can ensure that during the life cycle of 7 to 10 years of project delivery for infrastructure, the information is kept within the repository, within Insight, and will not go outside of the environment where you can communicate over the project. So everything will be tracked and traced within the Insight with audit trails. Every changes, we can check back what are the historical approvals, and everything we captured here. And not just that, with Insight, with that model viewer, we are able to bring to the cave, and we do the ICE session within the cave environment in LTA. And all the comments created with VCF, and we'll send it back to the contractor to do all the necessary changes to any of these clashes that they identify. So that's where we see IFC as the key component that brings across communication seamlessly, and it gives us the opportunity to create a seamless environment as well. All right. And further to this, what I've just shared about what we do in LTA, we're happy to have conversations with any of you who are about infrastructure, about IFC 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, etc., and also on anything on road and rail information parameters that you think we can exchange ideas. So I welcome us to have a conversation during this summit. And long-term wise, we also look at how do we want to create the 6D BIM for O&M. So to us, it's important that we lay the foundation right at the beginning before it can enable future dreams of digital twin using AI, ML, and whatnot. So the launch and the development of what we want to do with IFC is the key to what we're going to do to establish that strong foundation. And I think we are looking at working with our vendors in the short term to work out code checking, model quality checks, because today the model quality of our value chain is rather poor, to be very frank and honest. So we're going to come with a modeling guide, and then bring in the code checkings through the Insight, through the platform solution provider, along with also information check, where we want to check like where IDS and how your BSDD would come in together to ensure that we outsource these checks, automate these checks instead of our engineers, because engineers are tight with time to deliver project, right? So they may not have the knowledge or the domain capability to go and check all this model, interrogate this model in the deeper sense. So we want to leverage the technology with our vendor, our provider, and then we are able to then bring this forward and ensure better quality model in the long run, and thereby better information management. All right, I'll hand over back to Vanessa to conclude the session.
Mm-hmm. And we are going to conclude with a quote from our Minister of National Development, Desmond Lee. And in November 2023, he said that with Cornet X, we are going to turbocharge the benefits of BIM. So what's happening is that all across Singapore, models that are submitted to the government agencies will be in the IFC format, and it will be reviewed based on the IFC format, where issues are being approved based on the IFC models. And these IFC models that are being collected and produced, it will form the digital spine that links all of us throughout the project life cycle. It will standardize the information required for each project so that the models can be used throughout the built environment value chain. So for example, detailed BIM models by the consultants can then be passed on to the contractors to guide construction, and subsequently, these BIM models can also be used as a base to create digital twins of buildings and facility managers to enhance building monitoring and maintenance. And at the moment now, ConnectX is being rolled out. So there was a soft launch in December of 2023. And at this moment, projects, if you want to, you can already submit in the IFC format. And in the 1st of April 2025, just 2 weeks after, we have the buildingSMART Summit in Singapore. We will have the mandatory submission to ConnectX in the IFC format. So I end off here with the announcement that the Spring 2025 Summit is going to be in Singapore. It's 18th to 20th of March 2025. Please put it on your calendar right now and start looking for air tickets. And we'll have a great time. You will meet with all the project stakeholders, everybody who's participating in ConnectX and making this possible, from the private sector, you know, people like myself, in the public sector, people like Sam, and also technology providers, organizations like LeapThought, and all the other technology companies like Autodesk, Bentley, Graphisoft, and also Trimble that are making this possible, right? By working together so that we could easily export models into IFC SG format and include all the data that is needed for regulatory submission. So I invite you to join us at buildingSMART Singapore as a member, but you know, even better, perhaps you could join us in March 2025 for the Singapore Summit yourself. So see you there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa and Samuel, for your presentation, for this announcement, and for the example that Singapore has been for so many years, and you continue to lead that way for us to push for IFC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sergio.
And now, last but for sure not least, I'm calling Lars Straarup from Femern that will present the Femern Sand and Bælt digital data strategy. Lars is BIM and ICT manager in Femern since June 2020. Thank you, Lars.
Thank you. Before I head off, just a small presentation, just an introduction. As said, I'm the IT and BIM and ICT manager in Femern. To be fair, I'm not alone. We have a small team dealing with all the kind of requirements that we are setting for our contractors on this project. We have also a number of consultants attached to the project to help us out doing this job. It's quite a significant project, but I will go into more detail in a minute on that part. I have a significant amount of numbers in the business. I won't reveal how many, but some of my prior jobs that I've been working on, or projects I've been working on, is prior to coming to Sund & Bælt, is the metro project in Doha, major project on that part, and also a metro project in Tel Aviv in Israel before that. Now, why IFC? I have chosen to take another approach here, looking in from an organization, a company that is doing a running project right now. Why do we find IFC important for us? This presentation will be on a more strategic level, hence the subtitle on how does this fit in our company's strategy. We are so lucky, so we already have a mandate, an IFC mandate, an ICT mandate. But one thing is to have a mandate, you also have to live it out in your company. How do you do that, and how does that fit in? So I'll come a little bit back to that. Just to set the scene and telling you who we are, Femern AS is a subsidiary to our mothership company, Sund & Bælt. For some legal commercial reasons, it was decided to build, you could say, an internal entity within Sund & Bælt for handling the Femern project. But it is a fully 100% public and state-owned company, and we have some requirements that we need to live up to that come from the Danish government. So it's under the Transport Ministry in Denmark. The Sunderland Bælt value chain gives you an idea of where we fit in. We have in Sunderland Bælt a strategy for how we want to run our projects. There are some pre-phases before we actually go into the construction phase. For the Femern Bælt, we are right here in the construction phase. And of course, we in the end want to operate and maintain our facilities. We have some other larger infrastructure facilities like bridges and tunnels. And this is our main objective, and this is our main income to run and maintain these facilities. Now, why a fixed link? Somebody came up with a good idea. We think we need to connect to Europe, so let's build something down here to connect to the rest of Europe. Right before that, it was a huge detour here in the rest of Denmark, but it made sense to create a faster link into to the rest of Europe. And it was decided. It has been a long process in getting to actually start this project. And as you can see, there are some advantages going through this shortcut into Europe. It gave you could say, a commitment from not only the Denmark side, but also for the northern parts of Scandinavia, like Sweden, like Norway. A little bit about the connection itself. We have 18 kilometers of immersed tunnel. Actually, as it says, it's the world's longest immersed tunnel. So far, maybe somebody will take over before we are done in 29. That's the plan, that we still have to finish in 29. And a little bit about some key figures on how big this actually is for us. It's quite a substantial project that requires a lot of resources and a lot of requirements and documentation and information. A little bit more about the tunnel elements itself. So they are going to be precast in a huge factory that has been built for the purpose. And they are then going to be shipped out to the right position, and then they are going to be lowered down or emerged to the seabed and connected through there. And they will actually start from each end, from the German side and the Danish side, and then they will connect in the middle. So it's quite a significant and huge scale project, and some huge elements that needs to be dealt with. Quite a comprehensive engineering and complex task to do this. As said, Femern Bælt tunnel, connecting to the rest of Europe, and just a short view into where we have all the other connections with the infrastructure, the network 10T, as we call it, into the rest of Europe. So for us, it makes sense to have this kind of shortcut into the rest of Europe and connect faster to that. The contract itself is what we call design and build. So a number of contractors has been assigned on board and doing the actual design and execution. And our role in Femern or Sunderland Bælt is dealing with the monitoring and supervision of the project and make sure that everything runs according to schedule and requirements and so forth. Just to give you a small idea of where we are right now, not all contracts have been signed yet. But this is a subset of all the actors, the participants and companies working on the various contracts on this. So just to say here, we have a need for coordinating information across all the different contracts. And it is very different companies that we are facing here with different levels of skill sets, also when it comes to use of IFC and the BIM in real life. So why IFC? Why is it important for us? It plays a role in our strategy. It is important because we want to utilize, we can see a benefit for us. I will start up here with, or show here a statement from our CEO, pointing out that the data is the key here for us. It's nothing new, so to speak, but it's on the screen saying that we know systems are changing. We know software is changing, but data is what we need to be some kind of static, and we can reuse that. And this is part of our strategy to make sure that we, on a project like this, we had on Femern, there's a lot of people, a lot of companies. We need to ensure that we actually can share the data across all different areas, phases, and so forth. And then, as also mentioned in the beginning, we are an operator. We need to make sure that the data we get in can actually be changed or transferred into our operational business, and into our operational and maintenance system in order to ensure a what we can say easy startup. The testing and commissioning, the better we are to start this, the faster we can start it. This is money in our pocket. And then our management came up with this strategy saying that we are heading up against a usage of a digital twin, a predicted twin. This is where we're going. The path is set in that direction. So I think this is a very familiar process that well known to most of you in the BIM process, that we have all these different kind of phases. We want to ensure, I'll just click down here, ensure that the data is as much as possible consistent through all our phases, and the shift between phases. We all know that it's very familiar that when you go from one phase to another, you drop a lot of data. We want to make sure that this is kept to the best of our ability. And of course, the digital twin is an ultimate goal for us. We are not there yet, but we have started the path. Just another representation of the same thing, just to give you an idea of different kind of software that we're dealing with right now. Some of them are not even known yet. We need to make sure that all the data, one thing is collecting, another thing is to validate before we actually go into operation and maintenance, starting with the commissioning and testing. So there's a huge job being done right now in order to find out what is actually required here. How do we do this? And what kind of system are we going to adapt to? Some things are given, so we are running a specific operational maintenance system. This is given, we have to deliver for this system, and we need to adapt to that. Coming back to this, just to say that this strategy, this digital process we have within our project process fits directly into our value chain. So there are phases, as you can see, there are phases before we actually start constructing, just to say that we already here start gathering information before we actually start the project. Now, this is important for us to make sure that we actually can utilize and maybe base it on the same data structure, same data model. So in terms of IFC, what do we require here? We want, of course, some reliable data, and I call it exchange carrier. Something that is software independent, it supports interoperability, it has to be neutral, it has to be a standard data model that we can utilize throughout all the phases. And then, of course, there's a number of other information areas that we need to include in this transfer based on the project. What is required? How can we actually adapt this or include this in our data transfer? So a number of things is in play in order to get to this point and have a smooth transition into our operation and maintenance. And of course, we see IFC as a pretty good tool, software transfer format to do this, help us. It cannot stand alone, but we are pretty close. I said 100%, we're not 100%, but we are pretty close to have a reliable set, software set or standard format that can help us in that process. And for the infrastructure area, with the release of 4.3, it has certainly made some huge steps in that direction. Just to give you a small idea of what kind of information we have in a project like this in different areas, it's very simplified. So some various systems, and of course IFC is in the 3 model segment. We have some asset management, we have some document management, there's some GIS, there are some various data lakes that we need to adapt to and include. And for the project, we have created a number of standards that we are using on the project, which we have set as a requirement for the contractors to follow. And what the idea for us is that we actually use or try to set up the same data model to utilize in the different areas. You cannot adapt everything, but it's the basic of the data structure that you keep intact or try to keep stable throughout the process. And this is what we are trying to do here. Just a small example of a tunnel segment where we have added some classification to all our objects. Of course, everything has to be delivered in BIM models, and everything has to be classified. All objects has to be classified and delivered within the IFC format for this project. So, as I said in the beginning, IFC is already mandated. We are living the mandate. We are trying to adapt as much as we can. As I said before, having a mandate is one thing. It's important, very important, that somebody like the government or state authority sets these kind of requirements. But we have a job as an organization to find out to what level we can utilize this. We are all different, and we all work in different ways. So in order to get the best out of it, you need to find your own way, your own path as an organization. And we are so lucky, so our management, Bælt, Femern Bælt, acknowledge the openBIM and support us in that approach. So we continue that path. We have it within our strategy. And that is also very important that you have that kind of backup from your management side. So IFC on the project is a prerequisite. It has to be delivered in IC format on all our deliverables from the different contractors that is given. We acknowledge, or we believe IFC supports the company digital strategy, leading into what our ultimate goal is the digital twin and the way we're going to use that. I said before, we are not there yet. We have started the process. We need to find our feet in how are we going to, in an operation maintenance setup, going to utilize a digital twin. But again, we have started the process. And then we believe that IFC plays a key role in improving our productivity. So in order to have not IFC alone, but it's a major part in this, to have a standardized set of data, data structure, a data model that we actually can put more or less directly into our operation and maintenance. So the faster we can get into operation, that's beneficial for us. And as I said before, money in the bank. And then we believe also that IFC will improve or create the data relationship that can improve or enabling our information management much better. And then we now have this great opportunity with the Femern project to have an opportunity to accelerate some of our digital projects and develop further. And it's when those kind of large projects come into place into the organization, it gives us the room, the space to develop further. And this is what we are trying to utilize to the best of our ability on this project. I think that was the last slide here.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you so much for this impressive presentation and your work. And we finished. We just reached the end. I want to thank all our presenters for the wonderful way of showing how that responded to the why IFC. Yoshi from Japan with the commitment of the government. Then we have nailed that very well, announced that nowadays we need for IFC to work, we need to be ready to fix it, to fix it when it comes with bad data. It's so important that Vanessa and Sam, thank you so much for your presentation and for the announcement, and Lars for this incredible tunnel. So again, and thank you all for being here, for being part of the buildingSMART community and to attend this session. Please reach our speakers to have any question. And now we are going for the break. But during the break, parallel to the word IFC, there will be another word in your mouth that will be churros. For the ones that know what churros mean, okay. For the others, you can have them on the lobby, or for the ones that are have curiosity about how churros are made, please, you can come and go back outside. And in the outside, you will see the process of making churros. Please come back at 4, and thank you so much.